Hey, hey, hey. Time for another Out of This World story from rSpace. Funny thing about double lives, they always end up crossing paths. Today on rSpace, watch the collision unfold. Cheating wife got her affair partner to sabotage my car. They got caught on camera and paid the price. Longtime member here. I never posted here before because I never had until now. But I've been reading and learning from other people's experiences. That's probably why I was so quick to spot it when it started happening to me. I, 33 male, caught the signs of my wife's, 32 female, infidelity pretty quickly. She'd always been an attentive and loving wife, but that had changed recently. It wasn't all the time, but some days she was completely cold with me, and it was like she couldn't stand me. She'd never be able to give me a good reason for why she was acting like that, either. When it passed, she would say that she had been in a bad mood, or that she'd been going through mood swings. Then, on other days, she'd be the clingiest, most doting wife you'd ever seen. She would get mushy and tell me about how much she loved and appreciated me. It was sweet at first, but when the cycle kept going, I started to get suspicious. It was like she was overcompensating for something. During the good phases, she also got more physically intimate. She would go out of her way to touch and kiss me more. She even initiated more often. Once I started to suspect that she might be cheating on me, I put a stop to that. I got myself tested, and luckily I was still clean. That was a relief, but I couldn't shake my disgust at the idea that I might have been sleeping with her at the same time as someone else. I know this all makes it sound like I was paranoid, or I was a bad husband who didn't trust her. I felt like that myself sometimes, but I couldn't ignore my gut feeling. Something was off, and an affair was the only thing that could explain it. I felt vindicated the day I saw another man drop her off from work. The first red flag was that he dropped her off some distance down the street. I only saw them because I was outside checking my car. She was smiling and laughing before she got out of the car. She froze for a second when she saw me staring right at her, and then kept walking like nothing happened. She tried to play it cool and acted like I hadn't seen her doing anything out of the ordinary. When I asked her who her friend was, she casually said he was Eric from the office. He offered to drop her off at home since she hadn't taken her car that day. I was immediately suspicious. I didn't have a problem with her having male coworkers. The issue was that I'd never heard of this guy. She constantly told me about the people she worked with, and I felt like I knew most of them. She'd never mentioned this guy. I didn't press the issue. I made an offhand remark that I'd never heard of him. She pushed and claimed that she'd mentioned him. She even came up with an anecdote about how he was the one whose niece had gone to Italy for a year abroad. That was when I knew she was lying. She was adding unnecessary details that I was sure had never happened. After that, my mission was to prove that she was having an affair with him. She'd grown attached to her phone recently. Her nose was always in it, and it was always on her at all times. She definitely was chatting up a storm with him, and that was where I'd figured out the truth. The problem was getting the phone out of her sight. She even slept with it under her pillow, which was another huge red flag. It took 3 whole days before I got the chance to go through her phone. I watched her like a hawk for the slightest chance to go through her phone. The tough part was making sure she didn't realize I was watching her. I didn't want to spark any suspicion at all. When an opportunity didn't present itself, I made one myself. I'd realized that she didn't watch her phone so closely when she was watching TV, so I waited until she started charging her phone in the bedroom. Then I offered to give her a massage while she watched TV. We called those spa nights back while we were dating. We hadn't done it in a while, and she jumped at the idea. She left her phone charging where it was, and we went to the living room for a promised massage. I set the stage to make it as relaxing as possible for her. She always told me that I was good at giving massages, and they usually got her to unwind enough that she went straight to sleep. That was what I was aiming at for that night. I turned the lights low and lit a scented candle. I put on one of her reality dating shows, the ones I never bothered to follow out of fear of rotting my brain. I even poured her a glass of wine to help her drift along. When everything was set, I started the massage. I felt a weird feeling when we got started. It was like guilt mixed with rage. We used to pamper each other like this when we were dating and earlier in our marriage. It felt like a thing that was ours, a way of showing our love to each other. Now I was using it to trick her and prove that she was cheating. It hurt to realize how far our relationship had fallen. The irony of it was so painful that it almost made me cry for the first time in a long, long time. Laura, on the other hand, didn't have a care in the world. She was smiling and talking happily about how much she misses this. Why don't we do this anymore? I don't know, maybe because you're having an affair and playing with emotions? First, her chatter became a bit slurred, and then she was sleepy. Soon, she stopped talking completely. I was going for a little while to make sure she was fully asleep, and then I turned down the volume on the TV. She slept better with some quiet background noise. When I was back in the room, I immediately searched for Eric on her phone. I couldn't find him because she'd lied about his name. I found him saved under Melissa, which was the final nail in the coffin. Her message with Melissa revealed that his name was actually Matt, and he didn't work with her at all. Long story short, it was everything I feared. She was cheating on me with Matt. It had been going on for 2 months, which is more or less how long I'd been suspecting her. Every word I read just made things worse. First, she'd been introduced to him by her friend Emma. I knew her. She was perpetually immature, party girl type. I'd always told my wife I didn't like her, and it was obvious that I had good reason not to trust her. The worst part of it all was Matt himself. He didn't seem to have a real job, based on how he was always talking about drinking and partying during the day. He promised Laura that when she broke up with me, the two of them would live it up on the alimony and divorce settlement. That told me everything I needed to know about who he was and what kind of person my wife had turned into. I didn't need to meet Matt to figure out that he was a con man who was trying to use Laura for an easy payout. It was clear from the way he kept prodding and asking her when she was going to divorce me. Sometimes Laura would promise to end things soon, and other times she tried to convince him to just keep their arrangement the way it was. From what I could gather, she was torn between the fantasy he was promising and the financial stability I provided. If not for the fact that I was devastated, I might have found it pathetic how indecisive her greed was making her. Lucky for her, I was ready to make the hard decision on her behalf. I made sure to get a copy of all her messages with Matt, as well as her texts with Emma. I'm not sure how helpful that will be, but it is better to be over-prepared. Laura is still my wife, but she is the enemy now. I was fighting for my future. I got in touch with a lawyer the next day. I want to make sure everything is in motion before I tell Laura what I know. I know she can't change my mind, but I'm not going to give her even the slightest chance to wiggle her way out of this. I'll post an update when I finally talk to her and kick her out of my life. Just pretending I don't know what's going on makes me sick, but I have to play it smart. After being hurt by someone who you thought you could love, trust me when I say that you don't want to give them another opportunity to play you for a fool. If you suspect your spouse might be cheating, you owe it to yourself to look into it. I know trust is important, but knowing the truth is critical. It's worth being a little paranoid and insecure if it means finding out the truth about someone who is meant to love you. Update. As promised, I'm back with an update. Earlier, I discovered my wife was cheating on me with some sleazeball who wanted to cash out on my hard-earned money. When my lawyer told me the papers were ready, I couldn't wait to give Laura the good news. It's actually interesting how much I look forward to actually letting it all out on her. I had spent way too much time keeping it bottled inside. I sat her down and unceremoniously told her I know about the affair. As expected, she denied everything. She did a convincing job of it too. If I didn't have proof, I might have believed her. First, she played it straight-faced, acting like I was saying something completely ridiculous. I stayed straight-faced too, and repeated that I know all about her affair, and she was only making a fool of herself by pretending. She went with anger after that. She screamed and cursed and called me a pathetic little man for lying about her. She even said that I was probably cheating myself to even think of that. That was when I asked if she had proof of an affair. She said, "Of course not, but you're acting like a guilty person." So I asked her how it would make me sound if I brought up Matt. That stopped her act completely. She sat there looking for words, so I continued. I reminded her that she'd introduced him to me as her coworker, Eric. She eventually said, "Who's Matt?" But there was no real conviction to it, and it didn't come quick enough for it to be close to believable. I told her to stop the game so we could talk like adults. She still tried to play dumb for a bit longer, so I brought up the texts and slid my phone over to her. She just sighed and put her head in her hands. She claimed the texts mostly misrepresented her. She admitted to the affair, but she said she wasn't sharing her real feelings with Matt. She met him at a time when she was feeling unsure about her life, and being with him made her realize that she appreciated the life she had with me. She claimed she didn't want him anymore, and that she chose me. I laughed. Was I supposed to be flattered? She chose me, her husband, after spending 2 months sneaking around with a loser? I was supposed to feel like such a man after hearing that, right? She tried to reach for my hand, but I pulled away from her and stood up. I told her plainly that the papers were filed, and she had 2 days to pack her things. She went completely hysterical. She started screaming that I was destroying our relationship. When I tried to counter that she was the one who had an affair, she claimed that I was the one pulling the trigger on our marriage. She kept saying we could fix things if we went to counseling. I rejected that flat out. I wasn't the one with the problem here. I didn't owe her anything. I did my best to show zero emotional reaction. I remember reading somewhere that cheaters think they can win you back if you show emotion, even if it's anger. But if you're completely stone-faced, they can't find an angle to play you. I was surprised at how well it worked. She eventually accepted defeat and stopped trying to convince me to stay with her. Her next move was to try to get me to reconsider kicking her out. She said she had nowhere to go. I asked her if she had forgotten about Matt. Obviously, her affair partner was a perfect place for her to go and crash. He'd have her happily with how much he wanted her to divorce me. She snapped at me and said she couldn't go to him because he had a complicated housing situation. I still have no idea what that was supposed to mean. Maybe he was crashing at someone else's place? Was she cheating on me with a homeless guy? I wanted to laugh again. She was ready to risk our entire marriage for a guy she couldn't even count on. I told her she wasn't my problem anymore. She was an adult who'd made her own horrible decisions, and the two of them could deal with the consequences together. She left the next morning. I stayed out of her way the whole time. I wasn't interested in hearing her excuses or watching her make one last attempt to get me to change my mind. I just wanted her out of the house so I could move on with my life. But I wasn't going to get the chance anytime soon. Laura was determined to make things hard for me. She fought me every step of the way during the divorce. The evidence I got was a lifesaver. The texts were able to prove that she had an affair, and she was actively conspiring with someone else to profit off of me in the divorce. My lawyer told me that if she had good counsel, she would be advised not to ask for alimony to demonstrate that. I don't know if her lawyer suggested that or if she refused to take his advice, but she still tried to get alimony. The court didn't like that, and it ended up backfiring on her because she didn't get what she wanted. I still feel like the settlement was fair. She didn't get any alimony, but we sold the house and split the profits. If there was a way around that, I would have taken it, but it seemed that there wasn't any way for us to wiggle around that. Not getting everything was the real sore point for her. She wanted alimony and the house. Based on her messages with Matt, that was supposed to be the springboard for them to start their new life together. That was why I fought so hard to sell the house. I didn't want to live there, but I didn't like the idea of her using my house to support her new broke boyfriend. The crazy part was that she seemed to blame me personally for her plans falling through. She called and texted nonstop, accusing me of being out to ruin her life. She completely refused to take accountability for the major role she played in her own life capsizing. At first, I ignored her. I'd blocked her number, but she started reaching out through fake accounts and unknown numbers. It became full-blown harassment. I had to threaten to call the police before she backed off. But she still wasn't done. About a week after she stopped calling me, I left work to find my windshield had been smashed. All 4 of my tires had been slashed as well. I immediately suspected Laura and Matt, but I didn't bother calling her. I called the police right away. I wasn't in the kind of mood where I was willing to entertain a back and forth with her. When they came, they took my statement and asked if I had any recent conflicts. I told them everything about Laura, the divorce, and how hostile it had become. The officer said it seemed like a personal attack and promised to check nearby surveillance cameras. I was already certain it was Laura and her boyfriend, but I didn't expect much from the police because it didn't seem like the kind of thing they'd put resources on. Insurance would cover it, and I'd be fine. It was just unsettling to see what they were capable of. The police surprised me though. They got footage of the parking lot and managed to identify the vandal. To no one's surprise, it was Matt. He'd worn a ski mask while he attacked my car, but the idiot had only pulled it on after getting out of his car. There were a few frames where his face was perfectly identifiable. The driver couldn't be seen clearly, but I know it had to be Laura. He worked fast. He slashed my tires with a pocket knife in no time. Then he smashed the windshield in with a crowbar before sprinting back to his car. The whole thing took less than a minute. The police asked if I wanted to press charges. Definitely. I was done with the two of them. They'd already wrecked my marriage, and they wanted to destroy my property? What would be next? She became a lowlife just like him, so I didn't want to put anything past them. They both got arrested 2 days later. Matt was charged with vandalism and property damage. He gave up Laura in no time, and she was charged as an accomplice. Laura tried reaching out after her arrest, begging me to drop the charges. She rambled about how she didn't mean for things to go that far, and that they'd only wanted to scare me a little. She said Matt had taken advantage of her sensitive mental state at the time. I didn't reply to any of her messages directly. I just told her that I would get a restraining order if she tried to contact me again. That did the trick. Matt disappeared after he made bail. He skipped his court date, and a warrant was issued for his arrest. I guess he decided there was nothing here for him anymore after his cons with Laura failed. I hope it felt horrible when she realized that he really didn't care about her. He didn't care enough to stay. As for Laura, she pleaded guilty to avoid jail time. But now, she has a criminal record. Last I heard, she was living with her parents again, working a part-time job because her old job had let her go. I didn't feel sorry for her. She tried to take advantage of me at every turn. She even got a healthy sum of money from the sale of the house. But she still wanted more. Now she's paying the price, with a criminal record and a crooked boyfriend who ratted her out and skipped town. I'm embarrassed to even remember I was once married to her. I said this at the end of my first post, but it's really important. If something seems off in your relationship, trust your gut. Because if I had ignored mine, I'd still be living with a woman who was ready to destroy both of our lives because she was bored. The fact that she's stuck with the clown over someone who actually gave her a stable life, pathetic doesn't even begin to cover it. She had the nerve to act cold to you, gaslight you, then crawl back with, "I love you so much," right after she'd been texting discount Danny Ocean about alimony dreams. Come on, pick a personality. The delusion ran deep. She's actually believed she'd pull off this affair and cash in on your hard work. Then there's Matt. The guy literally put on a ski mask after he got out of the car. You can't make that up. You'd think if he had half a brain cell left, he'd at least know how cameras work. But nope, good riddance. You won, OP. She lost spectacularly. Have you ever suspected someone you loved was living a double life? How did you handle it? Thank you for joining us today on rSpace. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. Until next time.